Chapter 1497 Big Demon 3 The moment the Dharma blocking barrier came into effect, everyone despaired. The demon clearly wanted to trap and kill them all here. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. She had intended to flee for some distance, and then use the talisman that Mo Yi had left her to try escaping with Jiang Sun. But the moment the Dharma blocking barrier was activated, the talisman became useless. The others had realized this point as well. Everyone had an ugly expression as they looked at the fog that spanned across 100 miles. It won't let any of us off. Jiang Shangyu frowned deeply. As he looked at the chaotic scene, he flew upwards and slowly drew closer to the big demon. The big demon had left a trail of flattened vegetation and mountains in its wake. Blood seeped out from beneath the mud. Who knew how many creatures had been trodden into the ground by the big demon? At that moment, all the demon kings had terrible expressions. They had intended to enjoy the big demon's treasures after battling the humans and alien races. Who would have thought that they would soon become mere pieces of food in the big demon's stomach? We'll all be dead if we continue fleeing like that. The big demon clearly does not intend to let us live. Why don't we fight? Perhaps this will give us a chance of survival. The person in the ancient Yu clan's golden carriage spoke once more. However, his tone was now graver. Beast Master, now that the Cyclops Demon King is dead, you are the only one who understands demon language. Can I trouble you to speak to those demon kings? Jiang Shangyu frowned slightly. Now, joining forces was their only hope of withstanding the big demon king. At that moment, the Beast Master was in a sorry state. The big demon had crushed his steed with a single bite. He was fortunate enough to escape, but he had been affected by the big demon's demonic aura, and he was still unsteady on his feet. However, at that moment, the Beast Master could not be bothered about his state, sorry or otherwise. He walked towards the demon kings, who stood there with their ugly expressions. Unintelligible demonic words emerged from his mouth as he tried his best to communicate with these demon kings. The demon kings had clearly been frightened by the big demon. When they heard the Beast Master's words, the demon king's expressions grew complicated. Jiang Shangyu frowned deeply as he watched an elder from the ancient Yu clan walk over. The two exchanged glances and both understood the other's intentions. No matter how fraught relations were between the Jiang family and the ancient Yu clan, at this moment, they would face the enemy together and fight for their lives. Friends from the Jiang family. The elder from the ancient Yu clan stepped forward. Jiang Shangyu raised his hand slightly. We are now in grave danger. I don't know if you have heard the news from the Temple of Shadows, the elder from the ancient Yu clan said. Jiang Shangyu was startled, and he raised his eyes to the void to look at the troops from the Temple of Shadows. Everyone had been affected by the big demon's roar of rage and were unable to remain in the void. However, the undead from the Temple of Shadows seemed unaffected by the big demon's sonic waves. Even so, only one of the 3 skeletal dragons from the Temple of Shadows remained. The steeds of the 8 tribe leaders had all met their end in the big demon's mouth. What are you trying to say? Jiang Shangyu turned to look at the elder from the ancient Yu clan, his brow furrowed. Why was the elder from the ancient Yu clan asking him if he knew about what had happened in the Temple of Shadows at a time like this? What did it have to do with their current situation? Did you know that the Holy Lord of the Temple of Shadows has returned? The elder from the ancient Yu clan asked. Big Demon 4 Jiang Shangyu was stunned by these words. What did you say? The Holy Lord of Shadows is back. Jiang Shengyu's eyes were filled with surprise. The Holy Lord of Shadows had vanished for many years. Many forces in central mainland assumed that the Holy Lord of Shadows had died quietly. It's absolutely true. An elder from my clan saw the Holy Lord of Shadows in the Eternal Dynasty. Now, the forces from the Temple of Shadows are here, together with all 8 tribe leaders. The Holy Lord of Shadows might be in the Black Bone Carriage, the elder from the ancient Yu clan said. They had tried to make trouble for Ling Yan in the Eternal Dynasty, but the Holy Lord of Shadows had unexpectedly intervened, preventing them from attaining their goal. From this incident, they had learned that the Holy Lord of Shadows had returned. Jiang Shengyu's expression grew grave. Jiang Shangyu had not received news of the Holy Lord of Shadows' return, but at this moment, the ancient Yu clan certainly would not be speaking carelessly. Jiang Shengyu's gaze turned once more to the black bone carriage in the void. Could the Holy Lord of Shadows really be sitting in the black bone carriage? Although the Holy Lord of Shadows had vanished for a long time, she was still the most important person in Central Mainland. Legends had it that she had fought with one of the big demons in Central Mainland, and although they had reached an impasse, her presence today meant they might have a greater chance of winning. Jiang Shangyu and the elder from the ancient Yu clan quietly discussed whether to negotiate an alliance with the Temple of Shadows. While they were talking, Yi Qingtang, who was standing in the corner, heard every word. The Holy Lord of Shadows. Now, Yi Qingtang did not know whether to laugh or to cry. If circumstances had not forbidden it, she would tell the ancient Yu clan and Jiang Shangyu to forget about it. The Holy Lord of Shadows that the ancient Yu clan had encountered was right here. Where would they go to find another? Although those were her thoughts, Yi Qingtang took a handkerchief and swiftly covered her face. Besides other considerations, many of her acquaintances were currently present. Whether it was the Temple of Shadows or the green-robed girl, her face would be fresh in their memories. Perhaps they had not noticed her when they were fleeing just now, but if they saw her face now, things would get interesting. The green-robed girl and the 8 tribe leaders would kill her without the big demon needing to act. Yi Qingtang had not forgotten that the 8 tribe leaders were still strongly suspicious of her identity as the Holy Lord of Shadows. A moment later, Jiang Shangyu and the elder from the ancient Yu clan seemed to come to a decision. As the big demon's sonic waves dissipated, the two seized the opportunity to fly upwards and headed straight for the group from the Temple of Shadows. Yi Qingtang did not know what Jiang Shangyu and the Temple of Shadows said, but they seemed to come to some sort of agreement. Everyone was forming alliances, but the big demon was getting closer. In a moment, the area that the big demon's feet passed over was a gory mess. The strong scent of blood filled the air, accompanied by the big demon's roars. It looked like hell on earth. The various forces that had been fighting each other earlier now cooperated to fight for a chance to survive. The troops from every side used their killing moves. Even the demon kings exerted themselves fully. However, to the big demon, their combined efforts were pathetic. More and more people fell, and the big demon's tongue drew countless small demons into its mouth. Chapter 1499 Big Demon 5 As the big demon chewed on its food, blood spurted out and soaked its entire surroundings, filling the dried river with blood. The alliance that was formed just now was immediately destroyed after the big demon rampaged. A few demon kings were swallowed by the big demon, and about 10 elders from the ancient Yu clan were smashed under its paw. Both the Jiang family and the Temple of Shadows suffered great losses. The rest were in even more disastrous states. Despair filled everyone's minds at that instant. Yi Qingtang's veil was stained red by the blood. Jiang Sun was injured as well since he tried to protect her. However, even after such a horrifying fight, the big demon was not injured at all. The wound on its body that was a few meters deep did not even penetrate its outer layer of skin. Those who remained, including the powerful figures that came from the second domain, could not stay calm as they saw the big demon approaching. Boom! The big demon crushed the surrounding mountains and rivers. Its head was covered by the clouds, and only pieces of flesh dropped from the clouds as it chewed. The flesh of the other demons smashed onto the ground in front of everyone. No one expected the situation to develop in such a way. Everyone was here to fight for the big demon's corpse and treasures, but soon, they would be a part of the lump of flesh in its mouth. However, when everyone was almost engulfed by the feeling of despair, the big demon suddenly stopped. What happened? Jiang Sun's guard was up as he stared at the big demon. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes and planned to figure out what happened. The giant body that was covered by the clouds suddenly fell down. Its head slammed onto the mountain ridges and flattened them. No one was prepared for the big demon's fall. Many were crushed as it collapsed. The big demon fell down in front of everyone, and its body was like a huge mountain one could not climb over. Now, everyone managed to see its appearance. "Is it dead?" someone asked while trembling. Everyone gazed at the body of the big demon. The big demon would only head toward the land of infinite demons when it was about to die. This was why everyone rushed over after hearing about the news, but no one expected it to be still conscious and alive. Yet now, was it trying to prank everyone again, or was it really dead? No one could figure that out. The demon kings who survived by luck had very unpleasant expressions. They stared at the big demon cautiously and used their demonic air to probe the big demon. No one dared to move at all. After a long while, the big demon did not move, so someone took the courage and went forward. He then realized that the big demon was really dead. Everyone sighed in relief after knowing that. Most of them had been to the land of infinite demons countless times, and this was the first time they encountered a living big demon. If it was alive for a while more, all of them would be dead now. The situation was getting strange after the big demon died. Chapter 1500 Big Demon 6 The alliances that were formed because of the big demon divided after its death. They now became opponents instead of allies. A few demon kings rolled their eyes and were about to fight for the big demon's body as they were the closest to it. The faces of humans and members of the alien races darkened when they saw the demon king's movement. They immediately dashed forward. However, the moment everyone moved, an intense and horrifying demonic aura suddenly spread out in the surroundings. The demon kings trembled as they sensed the intense and fierce demonic air. This demonic aura was similar to the dead big demons. There was no more greed in the demon king's eyes. They changed their direction and immediately ran away. "What's that?" The rest were not as sensitive to the demonic air as the demon kings. When they sensed something strange, the demon kings had already disappeared. Suddenly, the sun was covered by a huge mass. Everyone lifted up their heads to see a creature approaching in the air. With the creature hovering above them, no one could see any part of the sky. "That's another big demon." Yi Qingtang felt her head explode when she saw the scale of the creature vaguely among the clouds. Barely managing to survive from the last demon, everyone again felt despair when they noticed the big demon hiding in the clouds. The last one was just dead, and now there was another one. They had no clue where this big demon came from. That was the reason why those demon kings disappeared almost instantly. No one dared to escape now, and they all froze at where they were. The shadow stopped right above the dead big demon. Everyone stared at the shadow nervously. A huge head suddenly appeared from the clouds, and before everyone could see its head clearly, it opened its giant mouth and bit onto the back of the dead big demon. Its sharp teeth bit through the hard skin and flash. The moment it took the bite, a huge amount of blood spurted out from the wound. The blood flowed down like a waterfall and formed a river of blood under everyone's feet. The big demon made a deep roar. It lifted the body of the dead big demon and flew into the sky. The giant body was dragged up into the clouds. Blood poured down like rain instantly and landed on everyone's body. The big demon did not seem to be bothered by the rest of them here. It bit the body and flew away. Everyone was soaked in cold sweat as they stared at the disappearing shadow. It seemed that they had just escaped from hell again. The land of infinite demons was extremely dangerous. No one knew how many big demons hid here. It would be a gamble of death or survival if they encountered one. This time, they were lucky that the second big demon was only interested in the body of its own clan member. Otherwise, everyone here combined might not even be enough to fill its mouth. The big demon's ability would level up if they consumed members of their own clan. Everyone here was incomparable with that body, and the big demon might not even notice their presence. Chapter 1501 Treasures 1 Though everyone wanted to fight for the big demon's body, no one dared to fight with the other big demon. They all shivered in fear as the ground in front of them was covered by a sea of blood. No one wanted to be involved in the fight between big demons. Everyone was disappointed as the big demon's body was gone. However, they were attracted to a shimmering point in the mess. There was a huge palace standing behind the crushed mountain. The palace was built out of demon bones, which shined under the sunlight. That's the palace of the Frosty Snow Mountain's big demon? The Beast Master's eyes sparkled as it stared at the palace. Before a big demon was about to die, it would bring all its treasures and build a palace with its demonic power. After it passed away, its body would rot into the palace. This would trigger the demonic air in the palace, and the entire structure would sink into the ground, burying it underneath forever. In the past, when people from different clans and forces came to the land of infinite demons to look for big demons, all the big demons there had died a long time ago. Their palaces were all buried under the ground, and it took a large amount of time and energy to look for them. The big demon was chasing and killing everyone, so it was some distance apart from its palace when it died. Its body was then taken away by another big demon, so the mechanism that controlled the movement of the palace was not triggered. Everyone's expression changed instantly. They all rushed towards the palace at the fastest speed without any extra talk. Jiang Sun and Yi Qingtang also followed. However, Yi Qingtang noticed that there were many figures appearing from different directions as she was flying towards the palace. All of them were heading towards the same place as well. There were other powerful figures hiding in the area. Yi Qingtang was shocked, but she did not slow down at all. The palace of the big demon contained all treasures it had in its life. It was a huge temptation to anyone. The palace was too large for them to see its full structure, but it was obvious to tell how many treasures were inside. People from all forces rushed into the palace as fast as they could. It was impossible for one force to own all the treasures, so they could only find and claim the most valuable treasures within the shortest time. Boom! The door of the palace was opened by force. Countless broken bones flew out. About 100 people had entered the palace within the blink of an eye. Yi Qingtang slowed down as Jiang Sun was injured. Though she also desired the treasures, she needed to protect Jiang Sun. But everyone, including the Jiang family, all aimed at the palace. Soon, Yi Qingtang entered the huge palace. The scene in front of them was astonishing. There were mountains of gold and treasure in the palace. Everyone was dazzled by the scene. This is the Eternity Bottle. In shock, the Beast Master picked up a jade bottle that was about an arm's length. The Eternity Bottle could transform all kinds of water into curing holy water. It could detoxify all poisons and disperse all heretic air. It was really a rare Dharma treasure. Chapter 1502 Treasures 2 The Beast Master was still in shock after finding the Eternity Bottle. A white-haired elder, who came along with the lady in green, picked up a ring from a pile of diamonds. This ring was not made of silver or gold. There was a diamond that glimmered in 7 colors of light on the ring. The radiances were splendid and attractive. Master, this is... The lady in green took a glimpse at the ring and looked towards the elder with confusion. It's the moon goddess ring. A smile emerged in the elder's eyes. According to the legend, the moon goddess ring contained a trace of the moon goddess power before she passed away. Normal people could not even imagine what power from a goddess contained. If this power was released, it could destroy any mainland in the first domain. If someone decided to wear the ring, they would be nurtured under the power of the moon goddess during cultivation. The effect of that was obvious. The elder wore the ring on his finger under the gaze of the lady in green, but he did not realize that a strange look flashed across her eyes. Besides the Beast Master and the elder from the second domain, many people found other long-lost Dharma treasures from a few thousand to tens of thousands of years ago. The big demon of the Frosty Snow Mountains had lived for at least 10,000 years. It had taken an incredible amount of treasure in its lifetime. After seeing the treasure the big demon owned, Yi Qingtang understood the reason why people from different forces all rushed here. She scanned through the crowd in front of her and was shocked by what she saw. Besides those who were chased by the big demon, there were many more powerful figures appearing in the hall. There were even people from the second domain. Out of all those people, Yi Qingtang was attracted by a tiny figure. There was a pretty little girl who was about 5 to 6 years old. She had round and big eyes and was dressed in a lilac dress that made her seem more adorable. There were many women following behind the little girl. The women all wore the same type of mask to cover their faces, and they all followed silently behind the girl. It felt a little strange that a little girl would appear here with the rest of the malicious forces. No one would expect there to be any link between the girl and any group here based on her tiny arms and legs. However, no one dared to provoke the innocent little girl. Celestial Fairy from the Purple Palace. Yi Qingtang recognized the girl's identity. The Purple Palace was the most powerful force in the second domain. Even though she appeared to be only 5 or 6, the Celestial Fairy was more than 10,000 years old. Having cultivated a group of heretical techniques when she was young, she was affected by that process and could not grow anymore. The Purple Palace was involved in the battle between the powerful figures from the second domain and the central mainland, so they were famous in the central mainland now. Yi Qingtang looked away and was taken aback by the number of powerful figures here. The little white tiger suddenly jumped out of her arms and seemed to be smelling something. Its round and tiny body dashed into a pile of treasure. Fiend celestial beasts had a better sense of smell and were more sensitive to Dharma artifacts. Yi Qingtang followed the little white tiger secretly while everyone else was digging for treasures. Chapter 1503 Treasures 3 The little white tiger walked through the main hall that was full of treasure and stopped at a dull corner of the hall. There were many jewels and pearls with dazzling brightness, but the little white tiger used its paws to dig a hole in the pile of jewelry. An old and sealed box under all the jewelry appeared in front of Yi Qingtang. There is good stuff inside. I can smell them. The little white tiger touched the box and said confidently. Yi Qingtang's lips twitched as she stared at the little white tiger, who was so proud of itself. But she believed in the little white tiger's decision. She looked around and saw that all the other people were busy digging for treasures, and no one noticed her. She then walked forward and opened the box slowly. As the box was opened, a pungent smell came out of it. The little white tiger immediately jumped backward from the stink. Fuck! How can it stink so much? The little white tiger covered its nose and its mouth, and its eyes were wide open. The little white tiger was not able to detect that smell before it was opened. Yi Qingtang held her breath and opened the box fully. There were 3 dusty items lying in the box. Besides those, there were many black worms that were as thick as fingers crawling inside. The black worms crawled among each other. It was surprising that they were still alive. They seemed to be invigorated by the air and crawled out of the box one by one. Yi Qingtang could feel the goosebumps on her body. After all the black worms crawled out of the box, the 3 items that were previously covered by the black worms revealed themselves in front of Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang opened her eyes wide instantly. There were 3 black Dharma treasures in the box. She had never seen any of these Dharma treasures before, but she could feel the intense aura from them. Yi Qingtang was shocked by the black Dharma treasure in the middle. She could see a mark that was shining vaguely. The light seemed to be alive as it floated above the Dharma treasure, and from it, Yi Qingtang could feel a holy aura. This is a mystic artifact. Yi Qingtang was astonished. From her previous life, she knew that any artifact left behind by God would contain God's breath, and these artifacts were known as mystic artifacts. However, mystic artifacts were so rare in this world. Yi Qingtang never imagined that she could find a mystic artifact here. However, before Yi Qingtang could figure out where the mystic artifact was from, she suddenly realized that everyone who was looking for treasures seemed to notice something, and all looked towards the direction she was at. This is bad. Yi Qingtang was nervous. The stink must have attracted everyone's attention, and the aura on the 3 Dharma treasures also revealed their presence. What interesting treasure did you find? A young voice came from Yi Qingtang's back. Yi Qingtang lifted up the box that contained the 3 Dharma treasures almost instinctively. She placed the mystic artifact with God's mark into her space ring secretly. Chapter 1504 Protector 1 When Yi Qingtang turned around, she realized that the celestial fairy, who had been on the other side of the Great Hall, had appeared behind her at some point. A bright, innocent smile appeared on the celestial fairy's exquisite little face. Her smiling eyes looked straight at Yi Qingtang. Besides the celestial fairy, the Jiang family and the ancient Yu clan also sensed the powerful aura and flew over. When Yi Qingtang looked at the group of powerful cultivators before her, the corner of her mouth twitched beneath her veil. Everyone immediately saw the 2 ancient and mysterious Dharma artifacts in Yi Qingtang's hands. Everyone present was a renowned, powerful cultivator, and their perception of this type of aura was extremely developed. Thus, they were naturally aware that these 2 Dharma artifacts were extraordinary. At that moment, Jiang Shangyu and the others from the Jiang family were delighted. Ignoring the question of whether they still intended to kill Yi Qingtang, this item was discovered by a member of their family. It would definitely be beneficial to them. But at that moment, Jiang Shangyu had yet to speak. He was no fool. Right now, many had noticed Yi Qingtang's 2 Dharma treasures. If he stood forth and proclaimed that Yi Qingtang was a member of their Jiang family, it might attract the attention of many with ill intentions. Yi Qingtang knew full well that an innocent person in possession of treasure would be considered guilty. She secretly glanced at the silent group from the Jiang family, and her mouth curled in a cold smile. "Little girl, hand those 2 things over to me if you don't want to die," said the old man who was together with the green-robed girl. He had immediately determined that these 2 Dharma treasures were extraordinary. "Hand them to you? What a joke! How can these things be handed to you?" An elder from the ancient Yu clan laughed coldly. He immediately planned to seize the 2 Dharma treasures. With that, he gave Yi Qingtang a chilly look and said, "Our ancient Yu clan will take those 2 Dharma treasures. You better hand them to me, or else." Everyone present could tell that the grades of these 2 Dharma treasures definitely exceeded those of other plunder. Even the moon goddess ring could not compare to them. In a moment, everyone had decided to seize the 2 Dharma treasures. However, there were too many people trying to get hold of it, and they kept each other in check. As a result, no one was in a hurry to act. Yi Qingtang felt gloomy as she looked at the scene before her. She could forget about these 2 treasures. Everyone present had seen her obtain it, and they would not let her off easily. They would certainly kill her to seize these 2 items. Yi Qingtang's eyes flickered as she considered the situation. Then, she took the 2 treasures and walked straight over to the celestial fairy. As everyone looked on in shock, she reached out and offered the 2 Dharma treasures to the celestial fairy. The celestial fairy could naturally sense the power of these 2 Dharma treasures. She had intended to kill this girl while everyone else was fighting, and obtain the 2 Dharma treasures. But she did not expect this girl to be so aware of her situation and actively give them to her. "Damn girl, what are you doing?" The old man's face grew grim when he saw what Yi Qingtang was doing. A powerful force suddenly built up in his hand. The seemingly petite and harmless celestial fairy suddenly glared at the old man. Her body was instantly shrouded in a purple glow. The next instant, a suffocating amount of force and pressure suddenly surrounded the old man. Chapter 1505 Protector 2, Can't you see, she's talking to me? A sinister look suddenly appeared on the celestial fairy's pale little face. The old man sensed the aura of oppression from the celestial fairy, and his heart sank. He was also from the 2nd domain. How could he be ignorant of the celestial fairy's power? He might not fear the celestial fairy in a one-on-one fight, but... The old man looked at the forces from the purple palace that were behind the celestial fairy. He looked grim, and the force in his hand dissipated. Then, he narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Qingtang. "Damn girl, if you dare to hand those things to someone else, I will reduce you to ashes." The celestial fairy laughed softly. It was a childish laugh, but it was filled with bone-chilling, murderous intent. I would like to see as well. Who dares to touch something offered to the Purple Palace? The old man's expression turned ugly. The other groups did not look pleased either. Few of the people present had abilities that matched the celestial fairies. Yi Qingtang was naturally well aware of the celestial fairy's abilities, otherwise, she would not have handed the 2 Dharma treasures to her. She certainly could not hold on to these 2 Dharma treasures. No matter which side she gave it to, she would offend the rest. She might as well choose the strongest side and hope that that would keep her safe. Anyway, she had already secretly hidden the best artifact. She might as well offer up the remaining 2 since they were so difficult to handle. The celestial fairy looked coldly at everyone. The threat in her eyes was clear. The group from the Jiang family looked displeased when they saw that Yi Qingtang had actually handed the 2 Dharma treasures to the celestial fairy. I have long heard of the celestial fairy's fame. I believe that only the fairy can use these 2 Dharma treasures. Yi Qingtang smiled at the celestial fairy and smoothly flattered her. A brilliant smile appeared on the celestial fairy's young face, like a child delighted with a new toy. But the oppressive force she had released just now prevented anyone present from viewing her as a child. Little girl, you're so good at flattery. Since you're so obedient, I will treat you well. The celestial fairy took the 2 Dharma treasures and looked around with an intimidating expression. She slowly spoke. If anyone dares to attack you within this palace, it will be tantamount to attacking my Purple Palace. These words were a warning for everyone. As long as Yi Qingtang remained in this palace, the celestial fairy would protect her. However, this protection was limited. Once Yi Qingtang left the palace, the celestial fairy would have nothing to do with her. When Yi Qingtang heard the celestial fairy's words, she inwardly called her a sly old fox. Everyone understood the celestial fairy's meaning. Even though some were not satisfied, they were unwilling to make trouble with the Purple Palace. After all, there were still plenty of Dharma treasures in this palace. If they fought the Purple Palace at this point, they might suffer losses instead. With that, everyone stopped quibbling. However, the old man swept Yi Qingtang a vicious look before he left. Even the group from the Jiang family shot Yi Qingtang disgusted looks. Yi Qingtang continued to smile, but she writhed inwardly. Although she had obtained a mystical artifact, she had certainly offended many people. Chapter 1506 Protector 3 Yi Qingtang secretly heaved a sigh of relief as she saw the crowd slowly disperse. At that moment, Jiang Sun returned to her side, looking worried. Tang Tang, what happened just now? How did you find something so deadly? Jiang Sun's expression was filled with distress. Of course, it was good to have found a Dharma treasure in the main hall, but Yi Qingtang was just too weak. Even if she found some treasure, she would be unable to retain it for her own use, and it would bring disaster on her instead. Although Yi Qingtang had obtained the celestial fairy's protection just now, she had offended all the other groups. The celestial fairy could not possibly protect her all the time. When they had obtained enough treasures, the people from the Purple Palace would leave. Then, even if Yi Qingtang remained hidden in the palace, the celestial fairy would certainly not bother with her. Yi Qingtang laughed wryly. How could she have known that the box would contain something so conspicuous? Jiang Sun frowned slightly, then pulled Yi Qingtang into a corner. Tang Tang, you cannot remain in this palace. They haven't acted yet. I will seize the opportunity to get out of here. Once the people from the Purple Palace left, those who hated Yi Qingtang would probably attack her. Jiang Shangyu and the others wanted Yi Qingtang dead as soon as possible, so they certainly would not protect her either. Why not sneak away when everyone was busy looking for treasure? Jiang Sun's injuries had improved greatly after she rested. She could not bear to leave Yi Qingtang alone in the land of infinite, so she thought of a way to get Yi Qingtang out of there. Yi Qingtang naturally grasped the merits of her plan. With that, Jiang Sun looked around. When she saw that no one was paying attention to them, she and Yi Qingtang fled from the palace through the main door. But their movements were detected by Yi Yu, who had been watching Yi Qingtang's every move from a secret spot. Yi Yu immediately sought out Jiang Qin and Jiang Shangyu, and told them about Yi Qingtang's escape. That Yi Qingtang is truly a traitorous creature. She is a member of the Jiang family, but when she obtained such a wonderful Dharma treasure, she did not hand it over to fifth granduncle. She has no thought for the prestige of the Jiang family. Jiang Qin laughed coldly and glanced at Jiang Shangyu. Jiang Shangyu looked very displeased. He narrowed his eyes and glanced at Jiang Qin and Jiang Shun, who were standing next to him. He secretly nodded to them. Jiang Qin and Jiang Shun instantly grasped Jiang Shengyu's meaning. They summoned some Jiang family members and left the palace in pursuit. Not long after Jiang Sun left the palace with Yi Qingtang in tow, she sensed someone approaching from behind. Jiang Sun looked back to see Jiang Qin, Jiang Shun, and the others rapidly nearing. Jiang Sun frowned, but when she realized that they were Jiang family members, she slowed down a little. "Aunt, fifth granduncle wants you to return immediately. The various forces are still fighting for the Dharma treasures. If you leave now, the Jiang family will find treasure at a slower rate than the others." Jiang Qin looked at Jiang Sun accusingly. "There are so many of you, aren't there enough?" Jiang Sun asked casually. "How can there be enough? Aunt, if you don't want to make fifth granduncle unhappy, you had better hurry back with us now." Jiang Qin tried to persuade her. Jiang Sun frowned slightly. She felt that something was amiss, but before she could gather her wits, Jiang Shun, who had been silently standing there, seized the opportunity. He suddenly attacked Yi Qingtang, who was behind Jiang Sun. Jiang Sun snapped out of her trance and hurriedly blocked Jiang Shun's ambush. "Jiang Shun, what are you doing?" Chapter 1507 Hunt down one. Jiang Shun laughed coldly. Yi Qingtang found a high-level Dharma artifact, but gave it to someone else. She should be punished in accordance with our family rules. "And, if you don't stay out of this, don't blame me for being discourteous." Jiang Sun's expression immediately darkened. She wanted to rain curses down upon Jiang Shun's head. Under those circumstances, Yi Qingtang would certainly have died if she did not hand the items over. The Jiang family not only did not step forward to protect her, but were now attacking her instead. At that moment, Jiang Sun understood that Jiang Shun and the others were only looking for an excuse to kill Yi Qingtang. Jiang Sun suddenly spoke softly to Yi Qingtang, who was behind her. "Tang Tang, you'd better go." With that, Jiang Sun suddenly attacked Jiang Shun and the others while Yi Qingtang turned and fled without a word. When Jiang Shun and the others saw that Yi Qingtang was escaping, their expressions darkened. Jiang Shun met Jiang Sun's attack, then gestured to Jiang Qin and the rest. Jiang Qin and the others immediately gave chase. Jiang Qin led a group of Jiang family disciples and chased her. As the distance between Yi Qingtang and them narrowed, a cold, malicious gleam flashed across Jiang Qin's eyes. "Let's see where you can run to." Jiang Qin's lips arched in a chilly smile. She increased her speed and was just about to deal a blow to Yi Qingtang's back when a blinding beam of light shot forth from behind Jiang Qin. Jiang Qin was startled. She sensed an immense aura surround her, coming from the void. Before she had time to look up, the beam of light shot past her and flew directly towards the nearby Yi Qingtang. Boom! A huge explosion rang in their ears. Jiang Qin looked up at the void in shock, only to see the old man from the second domain. At some point, he had caught up with them, and now, he was looking down at Yi Qingtang from his vantage point. The latter had been struck by the beam of light. His eyes were filled with cold amusement. Jiang Qin was shocked, but delighted. Yi Qingtang must have annoyed this powerful cultivator from the second domain when she handed the 2 Dharma treasures to the celestial fairy. But this person was even more powerful than their fifth uncle. Yi Qingtang would probably be killed this time without them needing to lift a finger. As Jiang Qin waited to confirm Yi Qingtang's death, Yi Qingtang was surrounded by the beam of light that had struck her. Yi Qingtang was not spurting blood under the blinding light, as Jiang Qin had expected. Instead, her figure flickered and then disappeared. When the light disappeared, there was no trace of blood where Yi Qingtang had been standing. What's going on? Jiang Qin's eyes widened. She had personally witnessed Yi Qingtang being struck. Why did she disappear? An illusion, The old man from the second domain, who was in the void, saw the image vanish before his eyes. A malicious look slowly surfaced in his eyes. Then, he vanished from the void with a flash. Aunt Qin, what happened to Yi Qingtang? A Jiang family disciple who had accompanied Jiang Qin could not understand what he was seeing. Jiang Qin was no fool. That Jiang Sun. I didn't expect her to be able to create an illusion of Yi Qingtang. I thought it was strange. Jiang Qin's eyes narrowed slightly. At that moment, she finally understood that the Yi Qingtang they had been pursuing was an illusion made out of spirit energy. Chapter 1508 Hunt Down 2 Jiang Sun was wondering where the little white tiger, which Yi Qingtang always carried in her arms, had gone to. With Yi Qingtang's ability, she couldn't possibly have gotten far. Spread out and search for her. I must have her head today, Jiang Qin said with a cold laugh. But Aunt Qin, hasn't the powerful cultivator from the second domain already gone to look for Yi Qingtang? Why don't we quietly await developments? Someone suggested. But Jiang Qin glared coldly at him. Didn't you understand what I said? I want Yi Qingtang dead. The land of infinite demons is so large. If the powerful cultivator from the second domain cannot find her, won't she be able to escape? Everyone finally nodded in comprehension. They divided into groups and continued to search. While everyone was searching for Yi Qingtang had already flown several miles away. Fuck, those Jiang family members were really up to no good. The little white tiger in Yi Qingtang's arms cursed softly. Yi Qingtang and Jiang Sun had just left the main hall when the little white tiger sensed many auras pursuing them, and so it warned Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang knew from Jiang Lang and his wife that Jiang Sun could create illusions. After a hurried discussion with Jiang Sun, she allowed Jiang Sun to use spirit energy to create an illusion that looked like her, to follow Jiang Sun. Then, even if the Jiang family caught them, they would not dare to do anything to Jiang Sun. She herself could seize the opportunity to sneak away. This time, they brought me to the land of infinite demons in order to get rid of me. Yi Qingtang laughed softly. She was fully prepared for Jiang Qin and the others. Perhaps she could continue to depend on Jiang Sun, but now, Jiang Sun was injured, and Jiang Shangyu had no intention of protecting Jiang Sun. Yi Qingtang was afraid that Jiang Shun and the others would kill Jiang Sun if they were forced to do so. Thus, Yi Qingtang had chosen to do things this way, firstly as a delaying tactic, and secondly to avoid involving Jiang Sun. The land of infinite demons was incredibly vast, and it would be no easy matter for someone to catch her. Although Yi Qingtang was prepared, she did not let her guard down. She flew swiftly with the little white tiger, hoping to get as far away from danger as possible. But before she had gotten far, she sensed a strong oppressive force floating about her head. Yi Qingtang hurriedly looked up at the void and saw that the old man from the second domain, who had accompanied the green-robed girl, flying a short distance behind her. What the hell? Yi Qingtang had not expected the old man from the second domain to chase after her. He must have greatly resented not being able to obtain the 2 Dharma treasures. Yi Qingtang's earlier plan was to distract the group from the Jiang family. She did not expect that this even more powerful fellow would be so desperate to want her life. Her expression darkened, and she quickly scanned the mountains and the forest. Boom! A blinding beam of light suddenly fell from the sky and charged towards Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang flew aside, narrowly avoiding this deadly strike. I would like to see how the Purple Palace can protect you now that you have left the palace. The old man looked disdainfully at Yi Qingtang from his vantage point. How dare an insect from the 8th heaven of arcane supremacy embarrass him? Today, he would make her long for death. Cold sweat popped up on Yi Qingtang's forehead. From the side of her eyes, she secretly scanned her surroundings for something. Chapter 1509 Hunt Down 3. What's the matter? You couldn't beat the celestial fairy to obtain the 2 Dharma treasures, so now you're taking it out on me. Yi Qingtang put on a mocking look while secretly looking for an escape route. The old man's expression stiffened. Little brat, you can spout whatever nonsense you want. Well, see what else you can say later when I rip out your tongue, the old man said with a cold smile. Then, he suddenly rushed downwards. Yi Qingtang looked at the approaching old man, and her eyes narrowed. She clutched the little white tiger tightly, then jumped down a nearby slope. The slope was not steep. When Yi Qingtang jumped, a lot of rubble came loose and rolled down. Below the slope was a wide, low-lying valley, shrouded by layers of clouds. Yi Qingtang clutched the little white tiger tightly in her arms. As they fell swiftly, many stones hit its furry head. Although it was not that painful, the little white tiger was unable to open its eyes under the bombardment. Fuck, are you jumping to your death here? The little white tiger's acute senses had already perceived that the valley beneath the clouds was filled with thick aura. If we don't jump, we really will die. Yi Qingtang was unusually calm. The old man was at least in the realm of a holy venerate. With her present powers, there was no way she could withstand him. The little white tiger immediately understood what Yi Qingtang meant, but what was below was even more difficult to deal with. A billowing demonic aura mixed with the strong scent of blood obscured all other auras in the valley. At that moment, the old man's only desire was to twist Yi Qingtang's head off, so he flew over in pursuit. Yi Qingtang, who continued to fall, did not know how far she had fallen, but the next second, she crashed into something warm and soft. This feeling was extremely odd. Yi Qingtang felt something sticky under her hand, and there was something soft under her feet that prevented her from standing steadily. A strong scent of blood choked her nostrils, as if forcing all the air out of her lungs. The old man also flew downward. When he landed, his nostrils were similarly filled by the strong scent of blood. There seemed to be something strange amidst the clouds. He frowned slightly. Then, he caught sight of where Yi Qingtang had landed. Suspended in midair, he gathered a powerful beam of light in his hand and released it towards the spot Yi Qingtang had landed. Boom! A resounding crash immediately filtered down from the clouds. The old man secretly smirked coldly. The surrounding scent of blood became a little stronger. The girl was certainly dead. The old man was certain that he had dealt Yi Qingtang a fatal blow. However, before he could fly away from this strange valley, a huge fin from within the valley suddenly broke through the clouds and flew towards the old man, who was about to leave. The fin was so large that it spanned 100 square meters. The old man was suddenly smashed into the mountainside by the huge fish. If not for his great powers, all the bones in his body would have been crushed by the blow. Even so, the force of the blow forced him to sink into the mountainside. Puff! A dreamy, ethereal voice suddenly rang out from within the valley. Amidst the scent of blood, the huge, translucent fin had sliced through the clouds. An extremely thick demonic aura suddenly engulfed the entire valley. As the strange voice rang out, the originally quiet valley was suddenly thrown into turmoil. Big fellow Wen Yi Qingtang was crouching on the soft, sticky heap when the ground beneath her feet suddenly trembled. She hurriedly grabbed the little white tiger and lied down flat against the ground. The next moment, they saw strange points of light appear above their heads. Yi Qingtang subconsciously raised her head to look and saw hundreds of eyes of different sizes 100 meters above her head, opening one by one. Puff! They heard the strange gasping noise again, accompanied by a typhoon that blew towards them. Yi Qingtang had no choice but to once again lie down against the ground beneath her. As the clouds dissipated, Yi Qingtang could finally clearly see the appearance of the ground she was crouching on. It was not spacious earth, but rather, the body of the big demon soaking in copious amounts of blood. The big demon lying on the ground was the one from the frosty snow mountains that everyone was searching for just now. At that moment, half of the big demon's body had been devoured. Shreds of bloodied flesh clung to half of the white bones. The huge skeleton stood on one side of the valley, and Yi Qingtang had been crouching on the big demon's remaining flesh. Yi Qingtang's robes were now soaked by the big demon's blood, but she continued to crouch motionlessly on the pile of bones. The big demon who had dragged the body of the frosty snow mountains demon away was also right before Yi Qingtang's eyes. For the first time, Yi Qingtang saw clearly what a big demon looked like. This big demon was somewhat like a whale, and its head had hundreds of eyes of different sizes. The huge mouth was as wide as the valley. Its entire body was covered with deep blue scales, and it was flanked by many translucent fins. One of the fins had smacked straight into the old man from the second domain. Puff! The big demon's huge mouth slowly cracked open, and it puffed out a turbid breath. The smell of decay mingled with the scent of blood. This casual breath spread out like a typhoon. If Yi Qingtang had not been pressing tightly to the ground, she would have been sent flying. Yi Qingtang had seen the big demon fly through the layers of clouds and had noted the direction in which it left. When the powerful cultivator from the second domain chased after her, she had noticed that the sides of that slope showed signs of being flattened. She had also noticed the blood and flesh buried between the rubble. Yi Qingtang guessed that the big demon might be in this huge valley. She would certainly die if she did not jump. She would probably die if she jumped. So she jumped. The big demon was so utterly powerful that humans like them were no more than insects to it. However, the powerful cultivator from the second domain had been intent on killing her, so he had attacked. But this attack unwittingly provoked the big demon. The old man, who had been smacked into the mountainside by the translucent fin, finally realized there was something deadly hidden in this valley at that moment. He finally understood why Yi Qingtang had suddenly jumped down here. However, it was too late. The big demon who was eating had been provoked. It let out an unhappy cry, and the fin pinned the old man down. Under the crushing and unrelenting pressure, the surrounding mountains also gave way. Yi Qingtang secretly observed the big demon's reaction and noticed that the big demon's attention was now focused on the old man who had provoked it. She led the little white tiger and slowly used the slippery blood on the body to slide down a little at a time, landing in the dead big demon's abdomen. Chapter 15:11 Big Fellow 2. At that moment, the old man, who was being unrelentingly crushed by the big demon, was still using the chi in his upper body to protect himself. However, he had already spat out a mouthful of blood. He fervently wished he could tear Yi Qingtang into pieces. But at that moment, it was nearly impossible to extricate himself from the grasp of the unhappy big demon. The big demon was unimaginably large. The hollowed-out abdomen was as large as a palace. Blood continued to drip from the flesh above, and the earth beneath Yi Qingtang's feet was unusually sticky from being soaked in fresh blood. Yi Qingtang seized the opportunity to escape from the big demon's abdomen with the little white tiger. As for that old man, he was on his own. Yi Qingtang did not care whether the old man lived or died. She hoped the big demon would lose its temper and tear him into pieces. Yi Qingtang walked for a long time through the big demon's abdominal cavity. The smell was nauseating, but Yi Qingtang suddenly thought of something. She took out the dagger she carried on her person and scraped large quantities of the big demon's flesh from the inner walls. Then, she stored them in her space ring. One must know that the big demon's flesh and blood were extremely valuable. Every small amount was a treasure greatly desired by many martial arts cultivators. When this big demon's body was taken away, everyone had given up hope. Yi Qingtang had not thought about it, but she had unexpectedly managed to obtain some flesh while the big demon was dealing with the old man. But the smell in the big demon's body was truly intolerable, especially for the little white tiger, who had an extremely sharp sense of smell. The stench almost caused it to faint. When Yi Qingtang saw that the little white tiger could not stand it any longer, she simply pinched its nose shut so that it would be easier for the little white tiger to bear. But the moment it opened its mouth to breathe, a drop of the big demon's blood dripped into the little white tiger's mouth. This really caused the little white tiger to shudder. Before Yi Qingtang could react, the little white tiger directly bit off a large piece of big demon's flesh from the inner walls and swallowed it. The big demon's flesh was beneficial to fiend celestial beasts, just as it was to martial arts cultivators. The little white tiger's skills had not advanced for a long time. The power in the big demon's flesh was just what it needed. So the girl and the beast busied themselves in the big demon's abdomen. Yi Qingtang scraped off large quantities of flesh, and the little white tiger seized the opportunity to munch on it. Before long, they heard a dull noise outside, and the big demon's body began to sway. "Let's go." Yi Qingtang grabbed hold of the little white tiger, who had been eating happily, and flew towards the light. No matter how valuable the big demon's body was, it was not worth dying for. The big demon's attention was now on the old man. But once he was dead, the big demon would soon discover the two of them, which it had overlooked, partaking of its victory spoils. They would be doomed. Yi Qingtang did not know whether the old man was alive, so she swiftly ran out of the big demon's body with the little white tiger in tow. From afar, she could see a patch of dust rising behind her, but could not clearly see what was going on. Yi Qingtang did not dare to remain any longer. She clutched the little white tiger tightly and swiftly clambered up the side of the valley. As they exited the valley, its interior was rocked by a huge tremor. Yi Qingtang saw the whale-like large demon flying through the clouds, gripping the other big demon's body in its mouth. Large amounts of blood fell, and it looked as though it would fill up the valley. Chapter 15:12 Big Fellow 3 Yi Qingtang sighed in relief after the big demon flew into the clouds. "Yi Qingtang, you're here." Yi Qingtang suddenly heard someone shout her name. Jiang Qin and the rest were looking for Yi Qingtang for a while. They came over when they heard the noise and were shocked by the big demon, but their eyes brightened when they saw Yi Qingtang, who was covered with blood. It was such a coincidence. Yi Qingtang did not expect that she would encounter any danger when she just managed to escape from the previous one. Her eyes darkened when she saw Jiang Qin and the few disciples of the Jiang family behind her. "Yi Qingtang, you have lived long enough. Today will be the day of your death." Jiang Qin sneered. "Don't bother looking for Jiang Sun anymore. He's dragged by my elder brother now. Prepare for your death now." "You're so kind to Yi Yu." Yi Qingtang chuckled. She had nothing to do with Jiang Qin, but everything was due to Yi Yu. "You're not even comparable to Yu Er. If you behaved yourself, I could still spare your life. But you didn't know your place here and kept disturbing Yu Er's life. I will not allow that to happen anymore." Jiang Qin narrowed her eyes and took a glimpse at the Jiang family disciples behind her. "Only when you're dead will Yu Er be relieved." The moment Jiang Qin finished her words, the few disciples dashed towards Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang understood that she could not fight against them. She carried the little white tiger and flew away immediately. "It's not going to be easy for you to escape today. Go after her. I want her dead today," Jiang Qin said coldly. A few shadows dashed into midair. Yi Qingtang's face was still covered by sticky blood, but now, she could not be bothered by that anymore. She was now certain that Jiang Qin wanted her dead. If it was a one-to-one fight, Yi Qingtang might still have a chance to beat the disciples. However, her opponents outnumbered her, and they obviously did not want her to be alive today. Yi Qingtang could only look ahead and try to speed up as much as she could. Suddenly, a familiar voice came out from Yi Qingtang's pocket. Head towards the southeast. Ling Yan's voice came from the voice transmission stone in her pocket. Yi Qingtang was stunned for a second. She took a glance at the people chasing behind her and changed her direction immediately without question. She flew towards the direction Ling Yan specified. After a short while, Yi Qingtang saw an area among the forests in the land of infinite demons that was surrounded by heavy fog. Under the fog that even extended to the sky, there seemed to be no end. She could sense a strange aura from inside. That's the forbidden area of the land of infinite demons? Yi Qingtang looked towards the foggy area. She could feel the demonic air coming out from the fog even though she was not close to the place. You're right. As long as you enter that place, your dilemma can be solved. Ling Yan's voice was calm. It was as if he knew the entire situation and could see Yi Qingtang right in front of him. Yi Qingtang was silent. She had never been to the land of infinite demons in her previous life, not mentioning the forbidden area. However, Yi Qingtang took a deep breath secretly as the disciples got closer. She hugged the little white tiger and dashed into the fog-covered area. Chapter 15:13 The Forbidden Place of Infinite Demons. One people of the Jiang family were stunned when they saw Yi Qingtang enter the fog-covered area. They did not follow her and stopped right outside. Is this the forbidden land? One of the men glanced at the heavy fog in front of him. The fog seemed to separate the inner area from the outer perimeter, forming a forbidden zone. The forbidden land of the land of infinite demons was the place that all forces tried to avoid when they came to the land of infinite demons. No one knew what was in the forbidden land, but everyone was clear that no one had made it out alive from it before. Many powerful figures had come over after hearing about the forbidden land. Even the big demons and demon kings wanted to enter this place to discover its secrets. However, those figures were not seen again after they entered the forbidden land. There was a slight chance of survival in the land of infinite demons. There was absolutely no chance of survival in the forbidden land. The disciples of the Jiang family felt now. They did not expect that Yi Qingtang would dare to enter the forbidden land. What should we do now? They exchanged glances with each other. It's been a few thousand years since someone entered the forbidden land. A young man frowned and said. They heard about how dangerous it was in the forbidden area, but those legends were from a few thousand or even 10,000 years ago. According to the legends, the forbidden land was extremely dangerous, but it contained even more treasures. If they could kill Yi Qingtang inside and bring back treasures, they would definitely be rewarded. A few of the disciples had visited the land of infinite demons a few times before and were confident with their abilities. If they could figure out the secret of the forbidden place, they might even have the chance to enter the elder cabinet of the Jiang family. After some hesitation, an ambitious young man entered the fog. Sometimes, ambition and greed would bury one's fear. The rest of the disciples had the same thought. They would not be able to explain themselves if they did not kill Yi Qingtang. All of them entered the fog immediately. Jiang Qin arrived at the place a little later and witnessed those disciples entering the fog. She froze on the spot and wanted to stop them. But it was too late. Only vague outlines could be seen in the heavy, humid fog. Yi Qingtang felt strange after she dashed into the fog with the little white tiger. The humidity in the fog was in contact with the big demon's blood on her body, causing the blood that was almost dry to become thick and sticky again. She could also feel the coldness along with the humidity, and her teeth began trembling under the cold. Although she had to escape, Yi Qingtang slowed down under the thick fog as she could not see anything. Ling Yan, Yi Qingtang took out the voice transmission stone instinctively and wanted to get some clues from Ling Yan. However, Yi Qingtang realized that the spirit energy in the voice transmission stone dispersed when she held the stone in her hand. It was just a cold and normal stone now. What she said just now was not transmitted, and there was no response from Ling Yan. Chapter 1514 The Forbidden Place of Infinite Demons 2, Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. She could sense something strange in the fog. The gray fog seemed to be mixed with many white and black clouds that appeared like cotton. However, there was no tangible feeling on touch, it was more like condensed smoke. There are some peculiar things in the fog. I'm afraid that your voice transmission stone cannot be used here. The little white tiger lied in Yi Qingtang's arms and moved its whiskers. Its nose was uncomfortable from the cold air in the fog. Yi Qingtang was confused, but Ling Yan must have his reasons when he told her to enter the place. While Yi Qingtang was pondering, she heard some voices and footsteps behind her. They actually followed me here. Yi Qingtang was surprised. Before they came to the land of infinite demons, Jiang Shangyu reminded them many times that no one could enter the forbidden land. She had no choice, but those people. Are they seeking death here? They really want to have themselves killed. Yi Qingtang did not want to stay at where she was. She increased her speed as she carried the little white tiger. Yi Qingtang could feel something crawling below her feet, and the crawling sound constantly reached her ears. She looked downwards instinctively and saw countless hair-like black strings intertwined together. It looked like normal, dark ground at first glance, but at a closer look, the black strings were constantly crawling. The black strings crawled between each other but avoided the area where Yi Qingtang was standing at. The strings stopped when she stepped down, but once she lifted her feet, the strings would start moving again. Yi Qingtang did not know what the strings were. She instinctively wanted to get away from them and decided to jump into midair. However, she felt something cold brushing across her face when she was just 1 meter above the ground. She looked up immediately. Millions of black strings were hanging down on top of her. They intertwined with each other and brushed across Yi Qingtang's face like human hair. The strings crawled slightly as they were in contact with her face. Yi Qingtang's whole body was filled with goosebumps. She instantly chose to remain on the ground as she could not see where the strings came from in the heavy fog. The moment she landed on the ground, she heard some horrifying screams coming from a few meters away. Yi Qingtang recognized this voice. It belonged to one of the disciples of the Jiang family who followed Jiang Qin previously. Before Yi Qingtang could figure out what was going on, a few figures rushed forward behind her miserably. Yi Qingtang could see the situation clearly this time. The disciples of the Jiang family who chased her in order to kill her now ran forward with their eyes wide open. It was as if they had encountered ghosts as their faces were all pale. As they ran, the black strings on the ground appeared to be alive and crawled onto their legs. They tried to run to get rid of the strings, but there were more strings crawling onto their bodies. Yi Qingtang took a glimpse behind her and saw a disciple of the Jiang family near the entrance, shouting desperately and trying to crawl forward on the ground. Chapter 1515 The Forbidden Place of Infinite Demons 3 That handsome face was now covered by countless black strings, which pierced through his skin from his temples and crawled under his skin to fill the entire face. Blood spurted out from his face. Besides his face, all of his exposed skin was pierced through by the black strings. His entire body seemed distorted. Large amounts of blood spurted out from the wounds, yet the black strings seemed to be excited by the blood and rushed into his body crazily. Swoosh! An ear-piercing sound suddenly rang out. Yi Qingtang witnessed the man being skinned by the black strings. He stretched his hand out for help but to no avail. A skinless, bloody man was dragged out onto the ground almost instantly and was totally buried by the black strings. A full piece of human skin was left behind together with the groans that were getting softer and softer. After seeing a man being skinned alive, Yi Qingtang felt that it was colder in the surroundings. Before Yi Qingtang could recover her senses, the black strings suddenly rushed towards the skin and filled up the entire skin. Yi Qingtang decided not to stay here anymore. Though she did not know why the black strings did not attack her, at the moment. It was better to leave this place now. Yi Qingtang ran forward with the little white tiger in her arms. She constantly paid attention to the black strings under her feet to check whether they were going to attack her. However, the black strings did not seem to be interested in her and did not move much. Yi Qingtang could see some light in front of her, and she sped up and dashed out of the fog. The scene she saw right after shocked her deeply. The disciples who managed to come out of the fog now lied on the ground. There were 3 bear-like monsters with distorted faces, and they bent their heads and dragged the internal organs out from the abdomens of those disciples. The most terrifying fact was that those disciples were not dead yet. Their limbs were fractured, and bones were nailed onto the ground to restrict their movements. They opened their eyes wide and witnessed their own organs being dragged out and eaten by the 3 monsters. The pain and fear really drove them crazy. "BS, bastard, let go," one of the disciples cursed in pain. But before he could finish his words, his jaw was crushed by one of the monsters. Blood flowed out, but he was still alive and could only bear with the torture that was worse than death. One of the disciples from the Jiang family seemed to escape from the torture by sheer luck. He shivered and fell to the ground, terrified by the hell-like scene in front of him. Their ambition and greed were totally crushed by the constant torture now. They should have known this. The horror of the Forbidden Land did not just exist in the legends, yet, they still chose to ignore it. It was impossible for them to escape anymore. The man who was not noticed by the 3 monsters by luck could not bear with what he saw anymore. He escaped into the fog in fear, trying to look for a way out. Chapter 15-16 Absolute Death 1. However, the moment he stepped into the fog, the white and black clouds of cotton suddenly rushed into his body from his mouth, nose, and ears. His body was filled out, and then he exploded in front of Yi Qingtang. His flesh and organs splashed onto the ground. Yi Qingtang, who wanted to retreat from the same path, now totally gave up on that thought. She felt that the fog was peculiar, yet now. It seemed normal when they first entered, but it would kill them if they tried to re-enter from the inside of the Forbidden Land. Yi Qingtang was not sure whether her guess was correct, but she did not have a life to spare to confirm her thoughts. The sky above her head was covered by the fog. The voice transmission stone was not working, and there were 3 monsters consuming human organs. Yi Qingtang really felt that she was on the path to death. Those disciples of the Jiang family finished their last breath and lied flat on the ground. Death just helped them to break free from the torture. However, the moment they died, the 3 monsters who were eating the organs suddenly seemed to lose interest in the dead food. They immediately threw away the unfinished organs in their hands and looked for new prey around. They landed their sight on the only 2 alive creatures there. Yi Qingtang and the little white tiger. Yi Qingtang stared at the malicious monsters. Though she had not fought with them yet, she could feel that these monsters' abilities were above the Holy Venerate stage. Their abilities were definitely not questionable since they could survive in such a horrifying forbidden place. Fighting against 3 Holy Venerate stage monsters. Yi Qingtang was definitely not capable of that. When Yi Qingtang thought she and the little white tiger might die here today, the 3 monsters seemed to be able to tell what she was thinking and walked slowly towards her. Yi Qingtang felt a cold sweat on her forehead. She secretly stimulated all energy in her body to find a chance of survival. A stream of hot air came out from the monsters' noses. Yi Qingtang was about to use all her strength to fight them as they walked over. However, the 3 monsters surrounded her up and did not have any intention to attack her. They just sniffed around her body. It seemed like they were trying to probe and sense. "Did they treat us as kin because of the blood of the big demon on our body?" the little white tiger murmured after seeing that the 3 malicious monsters did not attack them immediately. Yi Qingtang did not dare to let her guard down, but she had the same thought. Previously, she felt strange when the black strings did not attack her. Now, the 3 monsters also did not seem to want to attack her. Yi Qingtang looked at the big demon's blood on her and the little white tiger's body. The little white tiger's assumption might be true. The big demon and the monsters should be of the same clan. They must be familiar with the big demon's smell and have treated her as the same creature. Yi Qingtang probed and took a step forward with the assumption in mind. The three monsters did not intend to attack or stop her. They just followed her by her feet and continued to sniff. Yi Qingtang sighed in relief secretly and tried to walk forward. The three monsters just followed behind her slowly. They walked with 4 legs and lifted up their heads to sniff. Chapter 15-17 Absolute Death 2 After walking for about 10 meters, Yi Qingtang suddenly stopped and turned back. The three monsters also stopped. They lifted up their heads and opened their round eyes to stare at her in a silly way. Yi Qingtang suddenly felt that they really treated her as the same kind of creature. The three monsters shook their heads to look at Yi Qingtang. They used their noses to sniff her. The smell of blood was strong and familiar, but beneath the blood, they smelled something that was even more familiar. The smell belonged to the same type of creature as them. Oink! The largest monster used its giant nose to push Yi Qingtang's back as she did not walk forward anymore. Though it did not use much strength, the force from a 10-meter-tall monster almost pushed Yi Qingtang to the ground. The monster was asking her to walk forward. Yi Qingtang's lips twitched slightly. She had complicated emotions as she stared at the monsters who stood in a line behind her. Yi Qingtang was content with her situation when she saw the disciples of the Jiang family with their stomachs ripped open. Yi Qingtang could not help but choose to carry on walking. She felt lucky that her body was stained with the big demon's blood and that she did not have time to wash it away. Otherwise, she would end up in the same situation as the disciples of the Jiang family. After walking forward for a while, Yi Qingtang saw many bones around her. These people were dead for more than 1,000 years. She could see mountain ridges in front of her, but they looked dim now. Though Yi Qingtang did not see other living creatures, she could sense many pairs of eyes staring at her in the dark. Is it because of the three monsters? That's why those creatures in the dark didn't come out. Yi Qingtang was confused as she glanced at the three monsters following behind her. The little white tiger in her arms also glanced around. It suddenly seemed to recall something and said, "These three are the demonic bears, demonic bear?" Yi Qingtang was slightly shocked when she heard the name. The demonic bear was a type of demon. Yi Qingtang heard about them in her previous life that they were malicious and liked to consume all types of creatures. However, they only ate their prey when they were still alive. Once the prey died, the demonic bears would abandon them. According to the legends, the demonic bear was the most loyal servant of the demons. They had huge strength and thick skin, and they would become big demons after living for 100,000 years. They were extremely ferocious but had low intelligence. They were always loyal servants. Yi Qingtang looked at the three demonic bears behind her. Based on their sizes, they were still young, maybe only about 10,000 years old. The youngest might only be a few thousand years old. The demonic bear would undergo a huge change when it reached 30,000 years. Its body would increase by 10 times in size. This change would happen again at 50, 80, and 100,000 years. Eventually, it would become a big demon that could smash half of a mainland with one paw. Yi Qingtang looked at the three, silly and honest, demonic bears. There were some differences between them and the drawings, but she could not tell exactly. Yi Qingtang was still at the border of the Forbidden Land. It was definitely not the most dangerous place, but the bones that were scattered on the ground revealed how many people had died here. The strange black strings in the fog terrified Yi Qingtang. She could not even tell what the origin of the black strings was. She could only remember the human skin that was filled up by the black strings. Chapter 15-18 Absolute Death 3 Yi Qingtang walked forward with caution. She saw a broken ridge under a giant waterfall. Water flowed across the broken ridge. The area had been weathered by wind and snow over the years, revealing now only a tattered image of its former glory. Yi Qingtang walked over slightly and saw some strange characters on a tablet. She had never seen those characters before. While Yi Qingtang wanted to spend some time to figure out the words, she suddenly heard some noises. Fuck off. We wouldn't be stuck here if not because of you. A roar suddenly rang. The tone was really fierce, but the voice sounded so pure and innocent that it totally changed the intention of the sentence. There are other people here. Yi Qingtang's heart rate increased. She immediately led the little white tiger and the 3 demonic bears towards where the voice came from. It seemed that the voice came behind the waterfall. Yi Qingtang climbed across the mess and dashed into the waterfall. She was really curious about the origin of the voice. She was still being cautious and entered from the side. She then hid in the dark. Yi Qingtang stood in the dark and looked towards the huge cave behind the waterfall with the light reflected from the water. She was shocked by what she saw. In the dim cave, there was a group of children, who all looked very young. The oldest might only be 5 or 6 years old, the rest looked like 2-year-old toddlers who just learned how to walk. There was even a baby who looked like he was just born. He lied on some broken clothes and waved his chubby limbs. What is this situation? Yi Qingtang was astonished by the group of children here. How can there be so many children in the forbidden land of the land of infinite demons? They can barely walk. The shrine was just there. Why did you have to destroy it? You're the reason why we are all trapped here. The pure but fierce voice came out again. Yi Qingtang looked over and saw a 3 or 4-year-old child staring at another child in rage. The angry child had pure red hair. He had a murderous look in his eyes, and he appeared to be ferocious and frowned. However, the expression on such a cute child really looked amusing. The child who was scolded took a glimpse at the red-haired child. He had long and black hair that reached his shoulder. He folded his chubby hands in front of his chest and used his big eyes to look at the red-haired child with contempt. He spoke in a mature tone with his innocent voice. Did I ask you to come in? You. The red-haired child was so angry that his face was swollen. He raised his fist and swung at the black-haired child. The rest of the children stared at the fight calmly. Their expressions looked way beyond their age. Chapter 15-19 Age Reversal Curse 1 Emperor Yan, just stop already. Haven't you fought enough? Seeing that the red-headed child was about to punch again, another child hurriedly ran over with his short legs and hugged the red-headed child from the back. Get away from me, Fu Su. I will beat you up if you utter one more piece of bullshit. The red-headed child had a vicious look on his face. All you do is beat people up. Do you think that only you know how to do that? I was already annoyed with you back when we were in the second domain. Watch how I'm going to beat you up real hard today. A chubby child frowned deeply at the red-headed child's bluster and slammed his round fists onto his head. The red-headed child was dumbfounded for a moment, but in the next second, he lost all control and pushed away Fu Su, who was hugging his waist. Leaping with his short legs, the child lunged at the chubby child. The two children, both who could not even reach Yi Qingtang's thigh, were in a brawl in no time. Xiong Yan, don't think I'm afraid of you just because you're big. Back in the second domain, you caused trouble for me time and again. I'm going to skin you today. Furious shouts escaped the mouths of those two fellows continuously as though a life and death battle was about to happen in the next second. Yet in reality, all Yi Qingtang saw was two kids hugging each other and rolling around until they were covered in mud. Watching the fight, Yi Qingtang was speechless. Apart from those two, there were still a few other kids in the cave who seemed to have some grudges with each other and were awfully busy with fighting each other from the start. The other children, on the other hand, were calm, and there were even two children who sat on the floor, drew a simple chessboard on the ground, and played chess using rocks. The indifferent child who was hollered at by the redhead was standing aside with an impatient look as he looked at the chaotic sight. The child known as Fu Su shook off the mud on his body. With a helpless expression, he walked to the child beside him. Jiang Yu, although Emperor Yan is not nice with his words, there is nothing wrong with what he said. You kneeled at that temple for thousands of years to pray to the gods to revive your dead wife. But why must you destroy that temple after kneeling for thousands of years? The child who was called Jiang Yu frowned slightly with a deep gaze. The gods deceived me. Why can't I destroy this temple that lies to everyone? Back then, I heard that as long as I kneeled in the temple and prayed earnestly, the gods would show kindness and revive my wife. However, I kneeled for thousands of years, and my wife's corpse has already turned into skeletons, yet there was still not a single sign of the gods' advent. Why can't I destroy such a ridiculous place? Yi Qingtang, who was hidden in the dark, heard every word that Jiang Yu said. And the words Jiang Yu left Yi Qingtang dumbstruck instantly. Jiang Yu? Isn't that the name of the Jiang family's domain monarch founder? Yi Qingtang was surprised. Subsequently, she thought of the names of the children that were called out earlier on. Emperor Yan, Xiong Yan, Fu Su. Yi Qingtang had gone to the second domain before in her previous life and had naturally heard rumors related to the second domain. The names of these three people were that of the supreme powerful figures widely known in the second domain. Moreover, Emperor Yan was even the domain monarch of the second domain thousands of years ago. Chapter 15:20 Age Reversal Curse 2 What is going on? Yi Qingtang was utterly shocked by the sight before her. Her eyes swept across the small children with old facial features, and a shocking thought emerged in her mind suddenly. It had already been more than 10,000 years since Jiang Yu left the Jiang family. Furthermore, Jiang Yu and his wife were very in love, and after his wife passed, he suffered an extremely huge blow and left the Jiang family not long later. The members of the Jiang family believed that Jiang Yu had ascended to the second domain, but now, Yi Qingtang could not help but doubt this rumor. Just as Yi Qingtang was overwhelmed with surprise, a well-built kid walked toward Jiang Yu with his hands behind his back and looked at him with a slight frown. Jiang Yu, no matter whether you agree or not, your destruction of the temple angered the gods and caused the gods to lay a barrier and curse to this forbidden area. We have been trapped within this barrier for thousands of years and are cursed with the age reversal curse. If this goes on, I'm afraid that in a few years' time, we will also turn from children into nothing just like the Eternal Emperor and the others. Age reversal curse? A trace of astonishment hit Yi Qingtang when she heard that term. The age reversal curse was a curse of the gods. The gods placed this curse on those who offended the gods, and anyone who was cursed would degenerate in the opposite direction as compared to normal people, regardless of how old or powerful they were. Even a white-haired elderly would change into a young baby in less than 100 years under the age reversal curse. This curse that was almost similar to returning to one's youth seemed extremely tempting. However, with sufficient martial realm, a cultivator's life could be extended indefinitely, and living over millions of years was not an issue. Yet, the age reversal curse would put an end to a cultivator's life. A person's age would decrease continuously, and they would grow from old age to midlife to youth and subsequently to childhood. Once they turned into an infant, they were not far from death. Furthermore, a cultivator's skill would decline alongside his degeneration. Yi Qingtang looked in shock at the old children and finally understood why she was so astounded. According to their conversation, Yi Qingtang vaguely guessed some clues. Jiang Yu was the Jiang family's domain monarch founder, and after the death of his wife, he heard that a temple in the land of infinite demons could bring his wife back to life. Thus, he kneeled and prayed in that temple for thousands of years in hopes of gaining sympathy from the gods. Nonetheless, thousands of years of sincere prayer failed to exchange for the gods' compassion. Enraged, Jiang Yu destroyed the temple, which inadvertently angered the gods. The gods then laid a curse to this forbidden land and turned this place into a true forbidden land. Emperor Yan and the rest probably entered this forbidden land during that period of time, were cursed with the age reversal curse by the gods, and were sealed behind the waterfall by the barrier. The once supreme and dominant powerful figures were now, however, trapped within this barrier while bearing the age reversal curse, where they slowly degenerated from tall and mighty figures into little children who only reached Yi Qingtang's thighs. Yi Qingtang glanced at the pile of tattered clothes within the barrier. It seemed that over the years, many powerful figures had already degenerated into infancy and then into nothing. Chapter 1521 Age Reversal Curse 3 No wonder, people called this place a forbidden land where one will face absolute death. Yi Qingtang organized the rough clues and finally understood the situation before her. It was likely that ever since this group of powerful figures disappeared, this forbidden land was feared in the mainland as a place of absolute death, and no one dared to enter it. Even if a fearless person entered it by coincidence, he would probably be killed at the border by the black lines and demons, thus making it simply impossible to reach this place, much less learn about Jiang Ye's situation. After understanding everything, Yi Qingtang was extremely conflicted as she looked at the group of children before her. The powerful figures of various territories in the past are a bunch of kids now. Who can believe it if this news is spread around? Damn it! I have been locked in here for thousands of years. Why do I not see any juniors from my clan coming to rescue me? A child furrowed his brows like an old man and grunted. My hair has already turned white from the weight. Yi Qingtang's lips twitched as she looked silently at the little kid with baby hair. And he's still waiting for people to rescue him. Over the thousands of years, this place had long become forbidden to enter. If the Jiang family people were not after her life, she would never run into this damn place no matter what. Ah Chu, just as Yi Qingtang was observing secretly, the leader of the 3 demonic bears that had been following her sneezed after being drenched in water. The clear sound reverberated in the cave for a long time. For a moment, all the children stopped whatever they were doing, and they uniformly looked at the corner that they ignored before. Yi Qingtang was exposed before these supreme powerful figures, just like that. The group of powerful figures, who had not seen an outside person for a long time, suddenly saw 3 young demonic bears and a slim lady whose body was dripping with blood. Yi Qingtang instinctively wanted to escape. She had just turned around and was about to run away when Emperor Yan, who was the most aggressive one earlier on, kicked Xiong Yan away and bolted to the edge of the array formation. Stretching his stubby hand out, he shouted furiously. Stop right there. This holler seemed to be full of force, but it came out from the mouth of a 4-year-old kid and sounded extremely childlike and soft. Before Emperor Yan could put on an imposing manner, he was kicked to a side by another child. The child who kicked Emperor Yan looked at Yi Qingtang with a serious expression immediately. Junior, please stay. Don't be long-winded. Little girl, release me if you don't wish to die. Emperor Yan, who was kicked, had a fierce look on his young face. Yi Qingtang glanced at the adorably fierce kid that was Emperor Yan. Really? Not scary at all. Strangely gives one the urge to squish his cheeks. Junior, we have been trapped here for a long time. Can we trouble you to close this boundary so that we can get out? Not everyone put on airs from before like Emperor Yan. Some powerful figures understood the situation clearly and asked politely. Are you all locked here by the gods? Yi Qingtang voiced her previous guess. The children nodded. Jiang Yu destroyed the temple back then. The gods were furious and laid a curse on this area and trapped us within this boundary. The truth was not far off from Yi Qingtang's guess. All of these people were locked within the boundary by the gods and were cursed with the age reversal curse. Chapter 1522 10,000 Years 1 I'm afraid I'm unable to break open the boundary the gods laid, Yi Qingtang said. So many of them were supreme powerful figures and could not do a thing about this boundary. What could she, someone at the arcane supremacy 8th heaven, do? That's not true. This boundary cannot be opened from the inside but is easily opened from the outside. You can look at the waterfall behind you. In the depths of the water under the waterfall, there is a boundary stone left behind by the gods. As long as you destroy it, this boundary will disappear, Fu Su said. The powerful figures wanted to puke blood at just the thought of the way to close this boundary. Even a middle-aged man with no martial background could easily destroy that boundary stone, but helplessly, all of them were trapped within the boundary and simply could not get out. Over these 10,000 years, they were always waiting for someone to enter this place to break the boundary stone and return them their freedom. But after 10,000 years of waiting, Yi Qingtang was the only human they saw. You all are locked here by the gods, Yi Qingtang said suddenly. Yes. The people did not really understand her. The gods locked you all here as a punishment. If I let you all out, won't the gods lock me in together as well? Yi Qingtang spoke slowly while looking at them. She did not expect to meet this group of people here, and the reason why she did not leave immediately was because first, she was curious, second, the Jiang family's domain monarch founder, Jiang Yu, was among this group of people. Yi Qingtang's current situation in the Jiang family was far from optimistic. Although the current domain monarch was impartial, there were many nasty characters in the Jiang family, and Jiang Lang and Moe probably would not have an easy life. In contrast, Jiang Yu was the most revered senior of the Jiang family. If she could rescue him out. Who are Jiang Qin and Jiang Shangyu compared to the founder? Won't they still need to yield obediently? Although Yi Qingtang did wish to rescue Jiang Yu, she did not show it right now. Anyway, her clothes were tainted red from the great demon's blood, and the Jiang family's totem could not be seen. Don't worry. The gods left after locking us here. Otherwise, we would not have been able to live until now. Everyone explained immediately in fear that Yi Qingtang would really abandon them. Are you all speaking the truth? Yi Qingtang put on a suspicious front. Absolutely. The group nodded. But even if the gods left, this place is also filled with danger everywhere, Yi Qingtang spoke slowly. Before Yi Qingtang finished her sentence, Emperor Yan frowned and said, so long-winded. Forget it if you don't dare. You just need to tell my subordinates that I am here, and they will naturally come. Emperor Yan had a look of impatience. Yet, Yi Qingtang poured cold water on Emperor Yan. Even if I told them, I reckon they won't dare to enter. What do you mean? Emperor Yan furrowed his brows. How long have you all been here? Yi Qingtang asked him back instead of answering. Emperor Yan evidently lost all his patience and did not reply to Yi Qingtang after taking a glance at her. Rather, it was Jiang Yu who replied slowly. It has already been 10,000 years. Yi Qingtang replied. 10,000 years. Do you all know what this place is right now? Obviously the sacred land in the land of infinite demons. Yi Qingtang was silent. 10,000 years ago, this place may be the sacred land in the land of infinite demons where many powerful figures fought. But now, this place has become the forbidden area in the land of infinite demons, and almost no one dares to lay foot in it. I guess this place has turned into a cursed area because of the god's curse, and anyone who entered basically died without exception. Even if I let out the news that you all are here, I'm afraid no one will dare to enter. Yi Qingtang explained earnestly. Chapter 1523, 10,000 Years 2, Little girl, don't lie to us. You're merely at arcane supremacy 8th heaven. You dare to enter this place, so why wouldn't other people? Xiong Yan scoffed. If I wasn't being hunted down by people and had no other choice but to escape into this place, I would never step in here, Yi Qingtang said. Everyone noticed that Yi Qingtang was covered in blood, and she did look like she was just in a fierce battle. After thinking about how not a single soul appeared here throughout the past 10,000 years, the masses had their suspicions. We have been trapped here for a long time. If you can help us to break that boundary stone, we will definitely remember your favor, Fu Su said with a smile. It should be known that all of them were once extremely influential rulers, and countless people wanted to enter their forces. How precious would it be if one could gain a favor from these powerful figures? Sorry, I am still being hunted down by people and have no relations with you all. I've no intention to interfere in such matters and will take my leave first. Yi Qingtang acted as though she did not wish to be nosy and immediately turned around, wanting to leave. Everyone immediately became anxious when they saw that the savior they had waited 10,000 years for was about to slip away. Only this one person came after 10,000 years of waiting. Furthermore, if this place really did turn into a forbidden area as this girl had explained, wouldn't it be harder for people to come here? They had already degenerated to this stage, and if they still could not find a way to get out, all of them would turn into nothing in 10 years maximum. The group of children who initially put on airs of powerful figures were really anxious now. Wait, you said that you were being hunted down. Perhaps I can help you to get out of your predicament, Fu Su said hurriedly. Yi Qingtang turned around without concealing her sweeping glance at the group of powerful figures who were barely at her thigh. A tinge of redness tinted their cheeks when in contact with Yi Qingtang's bare gaze. Although we are affected by the curse and have been turned into this state, we still have many Dharma treasures on us that can help you to get out of your predicament. Fu Su explained in more detail. The age reversal curse caused both their bodies and skills to degenerate greatly. A smile emerged in Yi Qingtang's eyes when she heard that. She was waiting for this sentence. However, although that was what Yi Qingtang was thinking, she kept a suspicious look on her face. I haven't met you all before, and I don't even know who you all are. If you all really had such impressive Dharma treasures, why would you all be trapped here for as long as 10,000 years? Don't think of lying to me. The powerful figures were so maddened by Yi Qingtang's words that they almost vomited blood. 10,000 years ago, any one of them was a supreme figure that was highly worshipped by millions of people. Yet now, not only did this little girl not recognize them, she even doubted their skills. No matter how many Dharma treasures we have, it is useless. We already explained very clearly just now that we are simply unable to open this boundary from the inside. Although all of them were proud and arrogant figures, the only one who could rescue them was this person before them. Hence, these powerful figures who were used to acting arrogantly could only speak politely in fear that their only savior would leave. How do I know if what you all said is real? I think you all merely want to cajole me into taking a risk. I'll take my leave first. Yi Qingtang appeared as though she did not trust them and was about to walk away. Chapter 1524 10,000 Years 3 Wait. Fu Zu's complexion changed. Seeing that Yi Qingtang wanted to leave, he instantly replied. If you don't believe us, I'll give you one item right now. You can take a look first before deciding. Only then did Yi Qingtang stop in her tracks. The little white tiger was very speechless. Yi Qingtang truly perfected the skill of profiting from someone's misfortune now. Yi Qingtang giggled on the inside but kept a despising look on the outside. Helpless, Fu Su retrieved a copper ball from his space ring and tossed it out of the boundary. Living things would not be able to pass through this boundary, but non-living things could. Yi Qingtang picked up that copper ball and placed it before her eyes. You're tricking me with this lousy copper ball? Yi Qingtang had a disdainful expression. Fu Su almost fainted from anger. This is the Xianming ball and can absorb the essence in the surroundings. If you carry this item with you, it will also absorb the essence of the world when you cultivate, and the speed of cultivation can be multiplied if you cultivate with it in your palm. Xianming ball. Yi Qingtang really did hear of such a Dharma treasure in her previous life. This was a Dharma treasure that only existed in the second domain, and it was a superior cultivation item that was extremely rare. However, Yi Qingtang had only heard of it in her previous life and had not seen it before. Fu Su was indeed a big shot in the second domain. Any random Dharma treasure he tossed out was a rare superior item. Yi Qingtang laughed on the inside but kept an unmoved expression. I am being hunted down for my life right now. Making it out alive is already an issue for me. Even if you give me this cultivation item, I can't use it right now. Overwhelming hate. Fu Su was furious to death. Emperor Yen could also tell that it was not time for him to put on airs. He immediately waved his hand and took out a cloak from his space ring before tossing it to Yi Qingtang. Don't you just need a way to avoid being killed by others? This is an invisibility cloak. As long as you wear it, no one can sense your breath unless their cultivation realm is 2 entire realms higher than yours. This is enough to protect your life already, right? Yi Qingtang could not help but chuckle internally as she picked up that cloak. The treasures that these big shots took out were truly getting rarer and rarer. How do I know if what you said is real or not? There's no one else here. How do I know if others can sense my presence when I wear this thing? Disbelief filled Yi Qingtang's face. Emperor Yen gritted his teeth in anger. Darn girl. If I wasn't trapped in here, I wouldn't have time to talk so much bullshit with you. You think I'm willing to be nosy with your matters? Since you all are not interested, I'll take my leave first in case I get into unnecessary trouble. Then, Yi Qingtang wanted to leave again. But how could Emperor Yen and the rest be willing to let her leave? Then, the other powerful figures who did not speak much took out plenty of treasures from their space rings and successively tossed it to Yi Qingtang outside the boundary without hesitation. Items were dead already, but humans were alive. All these treasures were useless if they died here. The concealed smile in Yi Qingtang's eyes deepened at the sight of the pile of treasures before her. Seeing that it was about enough, Yi Qingtang frowned and said rather reluctantly, "Forget it. Seeing that you all are pitiful, I'll help out this one time." As she spoke in a tone as if she suffered a huge loss, she swept all the Dharma treasures on the floor into her space ring with a look of contempt. Yet, any one of those treasures could drive the people in this mainland insane. Chapter 1525 Lost One. Though everyone almost vomited blood by Yi Qingtang's unwilling look, they sighed in relief when she finally decided to lend a hand. Yi Qingtang did not want to waste time here. After the extortion, she put down the little white tiger and walked towards the waterfall. The water under the waterfall was very clear. Yi Qingtang could see a stone filled with moss at the bottom just by standing at the side. That must be the boundary stone. Yi Qingtang then jumped into the water. However, she did not swim down directly. Instead, she waved her arms and legs to splash the water out. It sounded like she was fighting with something. People behind the waterfall could not see what was going on in the water and could only hear some fighting sounds. They heard from Yi Qingtang that this place had become a forbidden area, and now, they were really worried. What if there are really some demons in the water? The little girl's ability is very limited. Those powerful people were a little discontent after Yi Qingtang extorted them, but now they were all worried that their only savior would die in the water. The little white tiger stared at the group of children jumping around by the boundary to try to see what was going on outside the waterfall. It shook its whiskers and saw Yi Qingtang waving her hands and legs calmly in the water. Fake. Keep on faking it. Yi Qingtang greatly exploited the resources of these powerful people. However, if they felt that they were at a loss right now, they might find trouble with her one day in the future when they regained their power. Yi Qingtang could not take that. That was the reason why she chose to act here. The big demon's blood on Yi Qingtang's body dissolved into the water after a while. The clear water was dyed with red, and the big demon's aura also dissolved in it. The boundary cut off everything. Those powerful people did not know where the blood on her body came from. Yi Qingtang acted for a while and then dived into the bottom to break the boundary stone. The moment the boundary stone was broken, the boundary in front of the powerful people for more than 10,000 years finally disappeared. After breathing in the fresh air, they rushed out of the waterfall. When they came out, Yi Qingtang climbed out of the water in an exhausted way. Her whole body was wet, and her blood-stained clothes were ripped. She looked like she had just fought with some demons in the water. They showed some complicated expressions on their faces as they saw how exhausted Yi Qingtang was. They suddenly felt nervous as they sensed the sheer strength of the big demon's aura in the water. There was really a big demon under the water. Yi Qingtang captured everyone's reactions. She used all her strength to stand up and looked at everyone in anger. They were slightly guilty under Yi Qingtang's gaze. They realized that the situation outside the waterfall was totally different from 10,000 years ago. The intense aura of the demon and the heavy fog were not there before. This proved that, as explained earlier on by Yi Qingtang, this place was cursed by God and became a forbidden place. Who told me that it was safe in the water? If the big demon was not attracted by something else, I might have died in the water. Yi Qingtang stared at everyone in rage. She looked like she suffered from some injustice. Chapter 1526 Lost 2. Just now, the powerful figures were still discontent with Yi Qingtang not willing to help after taking advantage of them. Now, they all felt awkward. They had no idea what changed in the world outside. We were trapped here for more than 10,000 years, and none of us knew that the world outside had changed. We're sorry for troubling you today. We owe you this time. Fu Su smiled and said. Now, he felt sorry for the young girl here. Ultimately, she had no relationship with them. Though they gave her many Dharma treasures, if she died here, all the treasures were useless. After being trapped here for 10,000 years, they had seen many other powerful figures disappear in the boundary due to the age reversal curse. They were very clear that all the Dharma treasures they owned would go into the ground after they passed away. As Yi Qingtang stared at everyone in rage, a mature-looking child, whose hands were folded behind his back, suddenly saw the totem on Yi Qingtang's chest. Yi Qingtang was covered in blood previously, and the totem was blurry. But now, the blood was washed away in the water, and the totem revealed itself. The mature-looking child's eyes sparkled with one glance. He then looked towards Jiang Yu, who was staring at Yi Qingtang's totem as well. Jiang Yu frowned slightly but did not say anything. I was unlucky today to meet you here. Alright, since all of you are out, we do not owe each other anything now. It seemed that Yi Qingtang did not want to get involved in their business. She waved to the little white tiger and was about to leave. The group of powerful figures were shocked. The mature-looking child immediately stopped her with a pure voice. Young lady of the Jiang family, please wait. Yi Qingtang was slightly stunned as she did not expect that her identity would be revealed here. She lowered her head and saw that the totem on her chest was quite visible now. She purposely did not reveal her identity, yet she was still spotted. The rest of the powerful figures were shocked for a moment and looked towards Jiang Yu. Besides the mature-looking child and Jiang Yu, the rest of them all came from the second domain. They were not familiar with the Jiang family or the family's totem. Jiang family? She belongs to Jiang Yes family. An expression of surprise appeared on Xiong Yan's chubby face. The mature-looking child smiled and nodded. Besides the domain monarch Jiang family, who else would have such a totem on the clothes? Jiang Yu, the young lady here is your descendant. Jiang Yu recognized Yi Qingtang's identity as well. A smile filled his eyes. He took a glance at the rest and lifted his chin up slightly. Ultimately, it's the Jiang family that saved everyone. In the past 10,000 years, they blamed him constantly for destroying the shrine and offending the god. However, they were saved by a descendant of the Jiang family in the end. Everyone had complex expressions. They condemned Jiang Yu for his luck secretly. It was surprising that a descendant of the Jiang family would enter this place and save all of them. Who are you? Yi Qingtang pretended that she did not recognize Jiang Yu and looked towards him. I'm Jiang Yu, the past domain monarch of the Jiang family. Have you heard my name before? Yi Qingtang was stunned and pretended to look surprised. You're Jiang Yu? Our domain monarch founder. Lost 3. Jiang Yu nodded in contentment. Yi Qingtang's face was filled with disbelief. It's impossible. Our domain monarch founder left the first domain long ago. Do you have any proof? Of course. Jiang family took out the Jiang family domain monarch's golden seal from his space ring and put it in front of Yi Qingtang. The Jiang family domain monarch's golden seal was made with special material and could not be forged. Every generation's domain monarch would have a special one. Once the golden seal left the domain monarch, it would turn into dust. It was impossible for someone to pretend to be the domain monarch. Yi Qingtang pretended to be very surprised when she saw the golden seal. She looked at Jiang Yu again and kneeled down. Domain monarch founder. Jiang Ye's smile deepened. He glanced at the rest of the children proudly. He then lifted up his short arms and said in a mature way, "You can get up." Yes. Yi Qingtang stood up immediately. I'm so lucky to be able to meet you here, Domain Monarch Founder. I entered this place by accident, and I still don't know how to leave here. Please bring me out of here, Domain Monarch Founder. Yi Qingtang showed a miserable expression. The smile on Jiang Ye's face disappeared after he heard her words. If it was 10,000 years ago, with Jiang Ye's ability, he could enter and leave the land of infinite demons freely as long as there was no interference from the god. It would be easy for him even if he needed to bring Yi Qingtang along. But now, Jiang Yu looked at his tiny body and then lifted his head to look at Yi Qingtang's huge body. His lips twitched slightly. His abilities were gone due to the age reversal curse in the past 10,000 years. He could not even fight Yi Qingtang now, not to mention bringing her out of this place. We can talk about this. My abilities are gone due to the age reversal curse. Jiang Ye's voice was softer. Yi Qingtang appeared to be shocked, but she expected this earlier on. She heard about the legend of the age reversal curse. Young lady, since you are part of the Jiang family, you should do your best to help your domain monarch founder. He's still under the influence of the age reversal curse even now. You need to bring him to the shrine and find the holy water to break the curse. Otherwise, he won't live long even though he's out now. It's just changing a place and waiting for death. The mature-looking child explained his intention after witnessing Jiang Yu and Yi Qingtang recognize each other's identity. The boundary was gone but not the curse on them. The shrine? Yi Qingtang recalled the broken shrine she saw on the way here. Yes. As long as we go over and find the holy water, the curse will be broken. The child nodded heavily. Okay. I'll bring our domain monarch founder over now. Yi Qingtang nodded and was about to grab the domain monarch founder's hand. However, before she even stretched her hand out, the rest of the children surrounded her. Since you're going over, bring us all together. The mature-looking child now appeared to be cunning. You can go by yourselves if you want the holy water, Yi Qingtang said. The rest of the children looked at each other awkwardly. They could go over by themselves if it was in the past. However, after suffering from the age reversal curse for 10,000 years, their abilities were all gone. Yi Qingtang was the most powerful person now among everyone there. Chapter 1528 At Ease 1, you also mentioned that this place has become a forbidden area and is full of danger. The shrine has been destroyed for years. We don't dare to go over, Fu Su murmured. His voice was very soft, but his face went pale due to embarrassment. As one of the most powerful and famous people in the second domain, now he needed to rely on a person only at the arcane supremacy stage. He really would not dare to meet others if this was known by everyone. Fu Su voiced everyone's concern. No matter how powerful they were in the past, now, they were just a group of children. If even a tiny demon attacked them, they would not be able to survive. How could they let Yi Qingtang walk away under such a situation? Furthermore, they also noticed that the three young demonic bears seemed to be very close to Yi Qingtang. They followed her by the side and did not intend to attack them. They felt slightly safer now. So, you want me to bring you in? Though Yi Qingtang predicted the outcome, she pretended to be very unwilling to do so. Right. Anyway, you need to bring your domain monarch founder over. How about just bringing us along? Before Yi Qingtang said anything, Jiang Yu, who was scolded by the rest for the past 10,000 years, suddenly walked forward. He stood in front of Yi Qingtang, and his tiny and chubby face was filled with discontentment and dignity. Nonsense. It is expected for a descendant of the Jiang family to bring me to the shrine for the holy water. What has this to do with any of you? It's so dangerous here that you will just lower the chance of our survival. Jiang Yu did not even bother with them. They fought countless times in the past 10,000 years just because they blamed him for the curse. Now, they saw a ray of hope after his descendant came here. How dare they ask to go to the shrine and find the holy water now? Let them live in their dreams. Old Jiang, that's not right. We have spent the past 10,000 years together. Aren't we like a big family now? Of course we need to follow you. The mature-looking child bulged his chin and spoke. Jiang Yu stared at him and said, Yu Qiong, I was still wondering why you pointed out our relationship. So this was your plan. I remembered that the ancient Yu clan always looked down on the Jiang family 10,000 years ago. What? Now you treat me as your brother? Yi Qingtang's sight landed on the mature-looking child after hearing that. He's Yu Qiong, the most powerful elder of the ancient Yu clan 10,000 years ago. Old Jiang, you're trying to make everything difficult. Yu Qiong still wanted to persuade him. Jiang Yu scoffed. Yi Qingtang could not even make the link between these two children who were quarreling and the most powerful person of the ancient Yu clan and the Jiang family 10,000 years ago. The powerful figures from the second domain were worried as well. If the age reversal curse was not broken, they would still die, not to mention regaining their power. Old Jiang, Yu Qiong's words make some sense. We have known each other for so long now. We have many Dharma treasures in our hands. If you're willing to bring us along, we can use those treasures as appreciation. Fu Su added. After spending so many years with them, Jiang Yu was clear how many treasures they owned. His expression softened, and he was more content now. Chapter 1529 At ease. Jiang Yu finally let out the anger that had accumulated inside him for all these years. Since you mentioned it, I'll acknowledge the fact that we have spent the past 10,000 years together. But you're all aware that this place is full of danger now. It will be more difficult for my descendant to bring you along. Take out whatever you have. They are not for her, okay? This is to ensure our safety. I don't want your things. Jiang Yu lifted his chin and said arrogantly. He seemed to be very kind and reasonable under his words. Everyone cursed Jiang Yu millions of times in their mind. His words sounded pleasant, but it was obvious that he wanted to extort them. However, they had to agree with his terms. No one dared to show any discontentment even though they were unwilling to do so. Who would know that the person who entered the forbidden place would be a descendant of the Jiang family? If it was one of their descendants, it would be their turn to be arrogant. Right. You're right, old Jiang. Sorry for troubling you. Everyone smiled and said. Jiang Yu nodded in satisfaction and glanced at Yi Qingtang. What's your name? Yi Qingtang. Your surname is Yi. Jiang Yu felt a little strange, but the totem on her clothes was the Jiang family's one. Furthermore, she admitted her identity as well. He did not ask any more. It's a little complicated. I'll explain in detail when we leave this place, Yi Qingtang said obediently. The domain monarch founder's identity in the Jiang family was impossible to surpass no matter how he looked now. Even if he was a little child now, the effect would be unimaginable when he returned to the Jiang family. Jiang Yu nodded slightly and then looked at the rest who he spent 10,000 years together. Emperor Yen, your soul-burning ring may be useful. Take out later and give it to Tang Tang. It can help to shield us from some danger. Emperor Yen, whose name was mentioned, really wanted to beat Jiang Yu up. The soul-burning ring was one of his most valuable Dharma treasures. He used it often to fight with Jiang Yu when they were first trapped here. Who would have thought? He remembered that. He was using his power for his own desire. The soul-burning ring only worked with someone who was above the holy venerate stage. It was going to be totally useless to Yi Qingtang now. What? You don't want to give it to her? It's okay. Since you don't care about everyone's safety, I think we shall forget. Jiang Yu was impatient. Okay, stop. Just take it. Emperor Yen gritted his teeth and threw his soul-burning ring in front of Jiang Yu. He could feel his heart bleeding. Jiang Yu looked at the soul-burning ring in his hand and laughed in satisfaction. He then handed over the ring to Yi Qingtang. Take it. Yi Qingtang trembled as she stared at the soul-burning ring in her hand. She heard about it before as it was one of the Emperor Yan's paragon Dharma treasures. Yi Qingtang thought she was good at extortion, but she did not expect that Jiang Yu would be even better. Jiang Yu now felt relieved after getting the treasure from Emperor Yan. He used the opportunity and named everyone who fought with him before one by one. He did not miss any Dharma treasures from them. If Yi Qingtang's extortion was a piece of cake, everyone felt that they were skinned after giving out the treasures that Jiang Yu named. They gnashed their teeth in anger, but they had no choice. If Jiang Yu was not satisfied and asked Yi Qingtang to abandon them here, they could only wait for death. Chapter 1530. At ease 3. Everyone cursed Jiang Yu for taking advantage of them, but they could only bear with it. Jiang Yu passed all the treasures he extorted to Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang suddenly felt she was rich now. Jiang Yu was indeed the domain monarch founder. He really had some skills in extortion. Yu Qiong, Jiang Ye's sight landed on cunning Yu Qiong after extorting everyone else. I heard that you were fully prepared when you came to the land of infinite demons and even brought one out of the 7 guarding treasures of the ancient Yu clan. I haven't seen you use it before. Don't bother hiding it anymore. Yu Qiong could feel the cold sweat on his body from Jiang Ye's words. After everyone offered their treasures, he could only follow. He then took out a transparent bottle from his space ring that contained a sleepy, colorful worm. Soul-eater worm. Jiang Yu was also stunned after he saw the colorful worm. Yu Qiong twitched his lips slightly. Jiang Yu smiled and grabbed the bottle. He immediately passed it over to Yi Qingtang and said, Tang Tang, keep this safe. This is a paragon treasure of the ancient Yu clan. Yi Qingtang was curious as she stared at the soul-eater worm. She heard that the ancient Yu clan had lost one of their guarding treasures in her previous life. So it was taken by Yu Qiong and was brought over to the land of infinite demons. Yi Qingtang did not know what the soul-eater worm did. However, it must be something special if Jiang Yu was so satisfied with it. Jiang Yu felt content now after extorting everyone. Yi Qingtang had a fruitful gain. The rest looked hopeless. After getting the treasures, Jiang Yu did not hesitate. He asked Yi Qingtang to bring everyone and head towards the collapsed shrine. In the Forbidden Land, a group of children followed a skinny girl. They walked in order and looked around cautiously. At the end of the line, the 3 silly demonic bears also followed. They did not attack, instead, they were like 3 guards that protected the rest from the eyes in the darkness. Old Jiang, your descendant really has some skill. The 3 demonic bears seemed to be obeying her. Yu Qiong asked as he felt there was something weird with the 3 demonic bear earlier on. Jiang Yu humphed, of course. Whose descendant is she? Yu Qiong almost could not control his urge to strangle Jiang Yu anymore. Actually, besides Yu Qiong, Yi Qingtang also felt that it was strange. The big demon's aura on her body faded, but the 3 demonic bears still followed her and did not attack. It seemed that Jiang Yu could see Yi Qingtang's confusion. When there was no one around, he said softly to Yi Qingtang, "You're wondering why the 3 demonic bears do not attack you?" Yi Qingtang nodded. "Has your heavenly demon bloodline awakened?" Jiang Yu smiled. "Yes." Jiang Yu nodded slightly. The demonic bear is the servant of the heavenly demon. Some disciples in our Jiang family are born with the heavenly demon bloodline. They can sense the heavenly demon bloodline and treat us as one of their own kind. However, only silly creatures like the demonic bears will recognize wrongly. If it were other demons, they would tell the difference easily. Chapter 1531 At ease for Jiang Yu did not confirm Yi Qingtang's identity just from the totem. He discovered the relationship between the 3 demonic bears and Yi Qingtang previously. He then confirmed that Yi Qingtang had the heavenly demon bloodline and was willing to acknowledge her identity. Yi Qingtang nodded slightly. She then looked at the 3 charmingly naive demonic bears that were shaking their heads. Her eyes were filled with amusement. She could sense that there were many demons staring at them in the dark. However, they seemed to be scared of the 3 demonic bears and did not dare to come out. The Forbidden Land had been cursed by the god. Big demons were very intelligent and would not enter this place easily, so the 3 demonic bears should have been here even before the shrine was destroyed. Soon, Yi Qingtang and the rest arrived outside the shrine. No one had entered the Forbidden Land since Jiang Yu destroyed the shrine out of anger back then, so the shrine still looked the same as when it was destroyed. The marks on the stones revealed the years of weathering caused by rain and sunlight. Jiang Yu pointed at the original entrance of the shrine. Yi Qingtang then led the group of children over. The door of the shrine was destroyed, leaving with a small gap one could still squeeze through. Luckily, Yi Qingtang was skinny, and the children could walk through at ease. The 3 demonic bears were too big to enter, so they sat outside. Jiang Yu had kneeled in the shrine for thousands of years and was very familiar with its structure. Though the shrine was destroyed, he could still navigate around for Yi Qingtang. There was a tiny stream of spring water in the shrine that flowed into the palace basement to form a pool. Under the god's aura, the pool contained the holy water. They had to consume the holy water in order to break the age reversal curse on them. "Jiang Yu, you didn't destroy the pool of holy water as well when you destroyed the shrine, right?" Yu Qiong glanced at Jiang Yu. "I don't think so." Jiang Yu was expressionless, but he was not too confident. They walked for quite a while in the mess. After walking down the broken stairs, they finally saw the underground palace Jiang Yu talked about. Many stones had fallen into the palace, but there were tiny streams in between the stones, following downwards. "Is that the holy water?" Yu Qiong's eyes sparkled. The group of children finally saw hope. They used their tiny legs to slowly climb across the huge stones. They took some holy water cautiously by hand and drank down. The moment the holy water entered their stomachs, the force of the curse that surrounded them suddenly disappeared. After 10,000 years, the feeling of suppression finally disappeared. They almost cried out in joy. Finally, they were not a group of children anymore. Emperor Yan drank in a rush and choked on the water. As he was enjoying the delight of the broken curse, he swore and cursed the next second. "Why is my power still not recovered? Where is my strong and durable body?" Emperor Yan's tiny hands touched his soft body constantly as he was waiting for his body to suddenly grow in size into the majestic domain monarch of the second domain. However, after he rubbed his body for a while, besides the soft stomach, there was no trace of muscle at all. "Who says I am not a baby?" One Jiang Yu, who had already drunk the holy water, glanced at Emperor Yan as if looking at a fool. "The holy water only removes the curse on our bodies. If you want to be fully restored, you still have to leave this accursed place. As for your body and powers being restored, you'll have to wait a long while." The hopeful Emperor Yen looked utterly crushed when he heard Jiang Ye's words. He collapsed and sat on the ground. Everyone had heard the legend of the age reversal curse, but few had ever angered a deity enough to suffer this curse. After the curse was lifted, they could continue to grow gradually over time, but as for whether they could recover the powers that had been worn away by the age reversal curse, no one could say for sure. Emperor Yen wilted like a frost-stricken vegetable. They had been trapped for 10,000 years, lost their powerful abilities, and had been reduced to helpless children. To these powerful figures, this was a devastating blow. Now, their only hope was that the curse had been lifted. After a few years, they should be able to recover their physical bodies without any problem. But as for their abilities, if they could not recover their abilities, they would need to start cultivating again, and who knew how long that would take. The powerful figures were inwardly despondent. Then, they discovered something even more depressing. Jiang Yu had fleeced them. They thought that this forbidden ground was dangerous and that it would be better to give their treasure to him and preserve their lives. But now, this temple was perfectly safe. So they felt cheated. Everyone turned resentful eyes to Yi Qingtang and Jiang Yu, who were now loaded. Jiang Yu thought nothing of it. He had finally gotten his own back. But Yi Qingtang began to think. No one was sure if they could recover their abilities after the age reversal curse was lifted. Although everyone here was just a child, they originally were the most powerful figures in the second domain. If they recovered their abilities one day, many would recall today's events with resentment. Yi Qingtang did not wish to leave bad memories among so many powerful figures. So Yi Qingtang calmed herself, looked at the dissatisfied crowd of children, and spoke. Today, you have been released from the curse and are free to leave this place. But you must be careful when you leave. The border of the forbidden place is shrouded by thick fog, which will attack anyone exiting the place. There are also strange things in the fog which will flay you. The group of powerful figures, who had been feeling discontent, could not help but tremble inwardly at Yi Qingtang's words. They were now a group of small children with little fighting skills. If the thick fog and the things in the fog were as Yi Qingtang described, how would they get out? This place had been cursed by the deity. They could not level up here.